I wanted to tell you my story. I'm a husband. I got a beautiful wife. I think I'm a great husband. I'm a father of 4. I'm an author. I wrote a book. And anybody that has wrote a book or attempting to write a book knows how difficult writing a book is. So I'm proud of that. My name is Sharieff Clayton. I'm a program coordinator for Cases, an alternative to detention program funded by the state and the city. And the design of it is to keep children out of detention while their cases are being adjudicated. In this process of engaging the kids, we remind our staff and each other that we're dealing with children and that they are children, and they're children that make decisions that are bad decisions. And there's a process of them making these bad decisions. I would have been labeled an at-risk youth if that label existed at that time. Most kids, it's not just like they snap and one day they just, oh, I'm going berserk. There was a process. So when you begin to identify the process with them, they can see it themselves, and they tell you, man, I'm going through that right now. We immediately identify which one of the staff has certain kids' ear better than the others. We try to determine why they're not going to school. We find that a lot of times the kids are not going to school and it's a poverty issue, right? They don't have adequate clothing to go 5 days a week. And because of the peer pressure that comes with being able to keep up with the fashion, they'll just opt out of going to school. Right. And so then, it opens up a whole nother spectrum of engagement and some of the work that we have to do in helping them to go to school. In a 100-block radius, or not even 100-block, in a 10-block radius, you got 100 buildings that's ran by this government buildings, right? So nobody, even though it's over 100,000 people in this 10-block radius, nobody pays property tax. Nobody owns property, right? So the local school in that area, the kids get only $6,000 worth for their education. Now this is something that's been argued. People all across the aisles has been saying this is unfair. This is why they call it the educational gap. I work with at-risk youth on a daily basis. And I go through the spectrum of working with at-risk youth. Some days they come in and they're under 15. So they come in, some of them is 12 and 13, and they walk in and say, hey, buddy, how's your day? I'm not your friend today, right? And so I got to deal with that. To the other extreme where they want to be treated as adults. They don't want to be questioned. Anything is a question. Anything is a challenge. And so you learn how to balance that. Throughout all of that, I'm sitting here today and I said that this is so amazing to me. How the tides can turn in a person's life. I also, at one time, had the distinguished label of being an inmate in a correctional facility. A place where I spent over 12 years. And it's something about that prison air, like it strangulates you, right? Like it's just, if you ever even went and visited the place, you can just it's thick, it's miserable. And so I had to find air in a place that strangulates air. One day I got invited to a class in the school building. And I actually, I went up there and it was like a history class. But it was centered around a history that I've never been taught about. We're learning about empires and geographical locations. The funny thing was that all of these people and all of these places, they look like me. It was enough to keep me in the class. it was enough for me to then go around and start getting all of the other young guys and getting them out of the gym and the sports and the TV and getting them to come into the class. And we began to learn together. And then for the remainder of the time in prison, I committed myself and my life to working with those young guys that was coming in that was completely lost. And we would get them into the classrooms and teach them. And they would learn. I come home and I get involved in cases, which is the Center for Alternative Sentences and Employment. So basically all of the kids in there have criminal, they have gotten arrested and they're fighting, criminal charges. The irony of it was that prior to going to prison, I was also a participant in cases. Now I'm in a capacity as a program coordinator where I'm able to make sure that what food they get, what mental nourishment they get, what emotional support they get. I feel like I'm in a great position because I know what works. It worked for me. It worked for my friends, right? I see it work. But I also see what doesn't work. I also see the relationships, how important the relationships are, in particular with the educators, the program, the parents, whoever's mental health people. Like, it has to be a whole piece. It can't just be they come to us and they feel good and then they go back home and they lives is in ruins, right?
Can't